Hey guys, how's it going? Evan Anderson here, and today we're going to have your fantasy football advice given to you by me. And the reason why I feel so confident about giving you this advice, guys, is because I've been playing fantasy league football for a number of years here. I've won, actually, to tell you the truth, I've actually, in one of my fantasy leagues, it's the money league that I'm in. I've won the last 3 years in a row, so I know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to fantasy football. Today, I'm going to give you some fantasy football advice on who you should start, who you should bench, and who you should probably cut from your team. Okay, so we're going to use a lot of the stats and information, the rankings that come from ESPN, uh, mostly because I feel like ESPN they do the most diligence as far as their scouting reports and their projections, and they have all of the expert analysts there. But sometimes those analysts get it wrong too, and so that's why I'm going to share my advice with you today. So hold tight and let's go ahead and get ready to get into your starting lineups for week 3. Okay, guys. So here we are. We're inside of the fantasy football website. We're here. It's week 3, and I'm actually going to go into the actual week 3 rankings. And you can find this if you just go to ESPN.com, come into the fantasy section. There's a whole show that comes on about fantasy football now, but I'm going to give you a little bit of advice because I'm not really sure who you might have on your team. And you know, I'm going to go through these rankings that Matthew Berry puts out there, and then kind of give you guys some insight as far as if I think who I think would be a good start, who I think won't be a good start, and then I'm going to actually take you guys into my personal team and show you who I'm going to have starting today in a couple of my leagues. So uh, here is just an overall ranking. This is the top quarterbacks projected coming into week 3. Okay, and this week they actually have Drew Brees ranked as the top quarterback, followed by Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, Matthew Stafford, Peyton Manning, Cam Newton, Jay Cutler, Nick Foles, Russell Wilson, and Philip Rivers to round out the top 10. Now, these guys, if you have them on your team, if they're in the top 10 as far as quarterbacks is concerned, um, I always like to look at the matchup to see who they're playing against, okay? Because if you have a quarterback and you have a pretty good quarterback, you want to look and see who they're matched up against on defense for that day. Because if it is a team with a good pass defense, odds are, unless you have an elite quarterback, you may want to find somebody else that's playing a weaker defensive opponent so that you can squeeze and maximize the most points out of the situation. All right. So you see who the guys are here that are ranked as top 10 as far as quarterbacks are concerned. This week, actually, I believe that as far as quarterbacks are concerned, I just think that Drew Brees is going to probably put up the best numbers of all these guys that are in the top 10, right? Of all these guys in the top 10. And I believe that because they're playing Minnesota, this is a weaker defense. It's a defense that will, without Adrian Peterson starting today, is going to be, weak in the run game, and they're probably going to be looking at the pass and move the ball a lot, but they don't have a great quarterback either. So I think Drew Brees is going to have the least amount of resistance, either him or Andrew Luck, playing against Jacksonville's defense, who has proven that over the past 2 years they aren't really able to stop too many people. So guys, if you got any of these folks that are in the top 10, I say start them. Outside of the top 10, the only name that I really, really like outside of the top 10 as far as starting for today is probably going to be um, Tom Brady. Okay? Because Tom Brady, these guys are playing the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders defense isn't that great. And Tom, when he gets into a groove, he knows how to put up a lot of points. Also, the sleeper that I have for this week is actually Geno Smith of the New York Jets. And I say that because of this. The Chicago Bears defense is not that good. They've had a lot of injuries. They lost a lot of players. And Geno Smith, although he doesn't put up a lot of passing yards, he's able to run and scramble and use his legs to put up big yardage. Okay, so that's the quarterbacks. Top 10 as far as running backs is concerned, right? We got the list of running backs here. This week, I really don't know because there's been a lot of injuries as far as the running backs. We've got Adrian Peterson who's out. due to his situation with the child abuse. And so when I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, looking team by team, and going off of the past couple of weeks, DeMarco Murray, you guys, has been one of the top running backs in the league these first 2 weeks. I'm looking for a big performance for him today. If you got DeMarcos, make sure you start him. Marshawn Lynch, this guy is a beast, man. Beast mode will be on today in Denver, so you can look forward to Marshawn Lynch putting up some big numbers. I'm expecting at least a touchdown or two for him today. In this Washington and Philadelphia matchup, I'm interested to see how Alfred Morris actually does. He's been a solid back for the last year, and he gets you consistent numbers. The question is, are they going to hand the ball off to him? Eddie Lacy, I'm kind of concerned with you guys. Even though he's in the top 10 list here for Matthew Berry, Eddie Lacy, he suffered a concussion in week 1. Week 2 really didn't have a great performance, and then they're coming against the Detroit Lions defense today, where you got guys like Ndamukong Suh, and you got Big Fairley up there on that front line, so they're going to make it really hard for Eddie Lacy to carry the ball today. So I mean, I have him actually in my starting lineup in one of my leagues, but that's kind of going to be like a coin flip. I believe he should get into the end zone, so he should be a solid play for you. But if you've got a Marshawn Lynch, or if you got a McCoy or DeMarco Murray, I would start them over uh, over Eddie Lacy today. In fact, I'm even looking outside of the top 10 and looking at Darren Sproles as a guy who can actually come in for you today. They're playing against the Redskins, but the Eagles have proven that the backfield that they have with LaShawn McCoy and Darren Sproles is going to be trouble for teams all year long. So those are some guys as far as running backs that I definitely recommend that you go ahead and get checked in. In this game here, Mattis Asida, the guy who's replacing Adrian Peterson today, he's another guy that can be a sleeper. They're going against the New Orleans defense that is, they're a decent defense. They got a great defensive coordinator, but be careful because this guy can really come out and surprise you. Make sure he'll probably get you a score. I got him, possibly as a flex play for the day. Just because of the intangible that he brings, he's able to catch out of the backfield, and he's a hard runner. Okay, so you definitely want to look out for Matt Asiata. I'm not sure if I said his name right. I'm sorry about that, Matt, if I got it wrong. Now let's head on over to the wide receivers, guys. We're going to speed things up a little bit because this video is going just a little longer than I wanted, but I want to make sure that I'm getting you guys some quality information. Now, today's top receivers. Whenever you're picking a wide receiver, guys, this is the ultimate fantasy football advice. When you're picking a wide receiver, your first choice for wide receiver has got to be a guy on a team that passes. If the team doesn't have a really good quarterback, they're not a pass-heavy team, you want to pick these guys later. Calvin Johnson, pass-heavy team. He has Matthew Stafford as the quarterback. Jordy Nelson, pass-happy team. Got Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. Brandon Marshall, not really so much a pass-happy team, but this guy he's a beast when it comes to wide receiver. He's physical, he's strong, he's aggressive, and his quarterback definitely looks out for him. Jay Cutler keeps an eye on him. Dez Bryant, feature wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. He's sure to put up at least 100 yards receiving today. Demaryius Thomas, playing underneath Peyton Manning. This guy, I mean, he's just a workhorse. All these guys here in the top 10, with the exception of Mike Wallace and A.J. Green this week, I would definitely start. A.J. Green, I say that, don't get it twisted. A.J. Green is a top 3 wide receiver in the league, but here's the problem. He's suffering with an injury. In fact, he missed last week's game, and it was a game-time decision, and you didn't find out right up until the tip, and a lot of people still had A.J. Green in their starting lineups, and he scored no points because he didn't play. So be wary about A.J. Green this week. Mike Wallace, I'm not really a big-time fan of his. He's playing in Miami. He has a so-so quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. I would definitely avoid Mike Wallace. I'd take Alshon Jeffrey before him, Julian Edelman before him, Percy Harvin before him. And I'd probably even take Cordell Patterson or Reggie Wayne or Sammy Watkins before I take Mike Wallace. So let's move on to our next position, which is the tight end. And we'll go ahead and take a look. Now, the tight end position, sometimes, unless you have one of the top 3 or 4 tight ends in the league, you really aren't going to, in general now, you usually don't get a whole lot of production. Hopefully you'll find a guy that makes it into the end zone and get you some points. Jimmy Graham, if you got him on your team, that's a no-brainer. Julius Thomas, no-brainer. Gronkowski, no-brainer. Greg Olsen, no-brainer. Antonio Gates, after the big 3-touchdown week he had last week, he is a no-brainer. Now, once you get past this top 5, that's when you get guys who are solid, that are starting tight ends, but they don't always catch a lot of balls. They aren't always on the field when it's an opportunity to be in the red zone and score some touchdowns. So even though these guys are good, Dennis Pitters, Zach Ertz, Martellus Bennett, Jordan Cameron, and Kyle Rudolph, and let's not forget Delanie Walker. Even though he's there at 11, this guy is big time, right? But a lot of these guys, they haven't been getting a whole lot of work, all right? So just be wary. Again, look at the matchups. Jordan Cameron, he's just coming off an injury last week, but this guy's a stud. He puts up big numbers. Same thing with Delanie Walker. And, Jason Witten in Dallas, he isn't a bad pick either, right? And if you don't have any of these guys on your roster and you're digging a little deep, look out for Heath Miller. Heath Miller has been in the league. He's one of Ben Roethlisberger's favorite go-to guys. So he's always an option, okay? Now, let's move on into the defense and special teams. You guys, I really don't worry about kickers too much. I'm not going to really go into that as kicker. Find you a kicker for a team that you think is going to score a lot of points, or a team that you think is not going to make it into the end zone. That's my advice as far as kickers are concerned. I usually switch out kickers just about every week unless I find a guy who is on a team that is very productive and scoring a lot of points, scoring a lot of touchdowns. That's how I determine how I pick my kicker. Now, as far as defenses for this week, folks, this is where it's going to get turned up a little bit. Right now, they have New England's defense ranked number 1. I got a lot of points off of them. They played very well last week. The Bengals have been good all week. 49ers have a pretty good defense. The Texans have a good pass rush. These guys have J.J. Watt and them boys, and they always get after the quarterback and make things happen. The Carolina Panthers, you guys, if you got them, I think they're one of the best defenses in the league this year, and they're getting slept on. But as the weeks go by, more and more people are going to be talking about this Carolina Panthers defense. The Seahawks are solid. However, they are playing against Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos today. That's a very high-powered offense. So you might want to, be wary of that if you can get one of these other teams. The Arizona Cardinals defense is stellar. However, they're going to have some problems on the offensive side of the ball, playing against San Francisco, which is another tough defense. So be on the lookout for that. And the surprise defense of the year, actually, so far for me, has been the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills defense has been holding people in check. It's been keeping them under control, and it's something that I personally wasn't even expecting this year. I'm not really sold on them yet, but the facts are that they're playing solid defense. They're getting help from their special teams, and they're definitely a team worth starting this week, playing against San Diego, who's a team that's turnover prone, and the way Buffalo's been forcing turnovers, this could be your steal of the week, right? And just like a team, in case you guys are looking through the waiver wires, looking for a defense to go with today, I'm also going to recommend, and don't laugh about this now, but the Cleveland Browns, right? The Cleveland Browns last week held the New Orleans Saints, one of the most prolific offenses in the league, to 21 points and got the win, and they did it primarily with their defense. Okay, Baltimore, the run game is suspect. Okay, the run game is suspect especially without Ray Rice being there, and their offense hasn't really impressed me, you guys. Other than outside of Steve Smith Sr., nobody else, as far as receivers on that team, has impressed me. Not Torrey Smith and those boys, or not Dennis Pitter. Steve Smith has been, the savior for them as far as offense is concerned. And I think with the cornerbacks and the defense that Cleveland has, they're going to shut that pass game down and shut Baltimore down along with it, you guys. So there we go, position by position. As far as this week, that's the advice that I have for you guys. As far as who I think is going to be quality players for this week's draft, if you want to get some more incredible advice, I highly recommend that you come to the Fantasy Football Now page, right? And Matthew Berry, again, like I told you, he's one of the experts, premier experts in fantasy football. He does what's called his love-hate column. And so I'm going to actually recommend, not that Matthew Berry is always right, because he's not, but this guy, he's an expert. He works for the premier sports station in the world. And, he offered his advice as far as who he likes and who he doesn't like as far as week 3 is, and also gives a little commentary on why. And so I think it'll be a awesome opportunity for you, if you're looking for fantasy football advice, to come check out what Matthew Berry has to say before you lock in your picks for week 3. Guys, that's going to be the end of my report for this week. I hope nothing but success, and hope that you guys have a win this week in your leagues. And I wish you nothing but the best, you guys. See you guys next week.